Hi, my name is Dr. Lander here at Advanced Animal Care in Richmond, Kentucky, and today we're going to be talking about dog deworming.
All right, Dr. Lander, why is it important to deworm my dog?
So intestinal parasites, worms in the GI tract there can cause really serious kind of systemic effects, maybe more immediately on the GI tract itself, vomiting, diarrhea, etc.
What are some of the parasites found in dogs and how are they treated?
The most common ones that we might see are roundworms and hookworms, let alone tapeworms, whipworms, Diarrhea, Coccidia, etc.
How do intestinal parasites impact the health and well-being of my dog?
Yeah, absolutely. So those can cause GI signs like vomiting, diarrhea. Hookworms especially can cause things like anemia, so deplete the body of red blood cells. Definitely some systemic effects there.
What are some signs and symptoms of intestinal parasites in a dog?
Probably the most immediate ones you'll see at home. We may have really loose stool, so diarrhea, vomiting, maybe a really bloated abdomen. That definitely could tell us maybe we have intestinal parasites going on, especially in puppies.
Would I be able to see the worms in my dog's stool?
You may, absolutely. Whether it be like tapeworms, for example, like little bits of rice versus the full worm itself, like roundworms you may see, you absolutely could see those.
How will a veterinarian diagnose intestinal parasites in my dog?
So the best way, it's a pretty straightforward, pretty inexpensive diagnostic known as a fecal float or intestinal parasite exam, where we take a stool sample, whether you bring it in or we collect it here, and then we put it in a certain solution and we allow the eggs to float to the top. We put that on a slide, look at it under the microscope. If we see those eggs, then it tells us, hey, there must be adults producing these eggs present in the GI tract.
Why is early detection and diagnosis of intestinal parasites in dogs so important?
We want to avoid those more systemic effects, let alone just your dog being uncomfortable with the diarrhea and vomiting. They can get really dehydrated, but also anemia is a really serious side effect that we may have to even do something as serious as like a blood transfusion to correct. So it's better just to deworm and get rid of those.
What is the difference between natural remedies or over-the-counter dewormers compared to prescription medications?
I will say, especially dewormers and all of that, they can exist in supermarkets, pet stores, etc. And they may be efficacious. I will say, unfortunately, where they're just out there for anyone to pick up, sometimes we worry about resistance. So sometimes parasites, whether it be fleas and ticks or even intestinal parasites, can build resistance against certain chemicals and medications, whereas the ones prescribed by your veterinarian aren't nearly as overused, and so those parasites are still susceptible to it.
So how do I choose the right dewormer for my dog?
The right dewormer kind of depends on, a lot of times, usually what life stage they're in. So for puppies, for example, we'll do things like Panicure or Drontal. They're kind of liquid formulations that kind of help clear them out at each puppy vaccine appointment. Whereas maybe an adult dog that hasn't been on heartworm prevention, because usually the heartworm prevention is what has the intestinal parasite prevention in it too, we might do something like Drontal, a one-time tablet, just clears them out of that current infection. Unfortunately, then it kind of takes prevention to prevent infections later on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.